Hello and good evening. Thank you very much for joining us for our virtual open house. We are thrilled to have our critical race and ethnic studies session for this evening. My name is Roderick Rose. I serve as the Director of Diversity Enrollment and Community Partnerships here at the University of Denver. We do have an opportunity for you to ask questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You will not be able to use the chat feature, but please interact with our fantastic presenter in that Q&A feature at the bottom. You also have an option to turn on your closed captions. So if you'd like to utilize that feature, we do have closed captions available for you. In terms of our presentation, I do have the pleasure to introduce the director of our Critical Race and Ethnic Studies program, Dr. Reginald Byron, and I will be passing the mic to him now. Dr. Byron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And thank you all for spending your evening with us. And thank you again for your interest in learning more about CRESS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully all of you can see that. All right.
Yep, we got it.
All right, great. All right.
It is not fully open in the presentation view. We are seeing.
It's not. Okay. All right, let's do that then. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, better.
See, still, yep, it's still thinking on the view from my end for right now.
Okay.
Maybe it'll just see.
It expanded for me, but
Yeah, so we are seeing the view of just all of your next slides as well in the
okay.
notes. We're seeing that screen right now.
Okay, so one second, let me stop sharing. And then I'm going to see if I can reset this. So what about if I do it? Not much. All right. What about now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. All right, so thank you all for attending. As was just mentioned, I'm Reggie Byron. I'm an associate director of, an associate professor of sociology and the director of critical race and ethnic studies here at the University of Denver. All right, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who we are as critical race and ethnic studies faculty. So we are four people officially. And critical race and ethnic studies is the newest major in the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences at DU. Critical race and ethnic studies started in fall of 2023, and we offer students the opportunity to examine race and ethnicity as an active process in the distribution of power and the construction of personal identities and communities. Because students at other universities across the country in more conservative states are not able to learn about CRESS because of recent state level legislation, we believe that CRESS is really important and something that we value at DU because it makes more diverse citizens and citizens more equipped to deal with the diversity that they're going to encounter when they leave college. Students in our courses have expressed that CRESS is different than they thought it actually was based on popular media, and they've expressed that the material that we go over is extremely relevant to the scenarios that happen in everyday life. Each CRESS faculty member is jointly appointed. So basically what that means is that we have a home in CRESS, but we also have a home in a different discipline. So for example, We have me, of course, on the bottom left. I'm jointly appointed between Cress and sociology. When we go to the top left, we have Dr. Stephanie Kang, who's jointly appointed in Cress and art history. When we move over to the top right, we see Dr. T. Carlos Roberts, who's jointly appointed in Cress and music. And then finally, we have an incoming faculty member who's not quite here yet, but who will start in September, Dr. Hannah Paul, who will be jointly appointed in Cress and political science. And so, as you can see, we come from a range of different fields, both in the arts and in the social sciences. And we hope that students will find our materials engaging and also interdisciplinary. So when we think about Cress and the reason for its start at DU, especially as a major, we would like to recognize that DU joins the ranks of other prestigious American institutions that either have Cress as a major, Cress as a minor, and or Cress as a center, right? And so here are some of the examples here. You can see Yale University, Brown University, some Ivy Leagues, but then some non-Ivy Leagues as well. See the value of Cress contributing to the curriculum, and ultimately, we're glad to join the ranks of these institutions. So what we offer as a part of our major, a diverse and interdisciplinary curriculum, right? So as you noticed, we have faculty member from sociology, from political science, from music, and from art history. And so basically what we try to do in our courses is we try to make our courses speak to each other, right? Our courses come from these different fields, but nonetheless, they have Cress in common. And so we try to engage our courses at that spoke. We also have a curriculum that allows for double majoring. Many students at DU will decide to double major. And so they'll have, for example, Cress as a major, and then they'll have criminology as another major. Because we are on the quarter system, this allows for a lot of flexibility in the courses that students can take. And many of our students take advantage of that by double majoring. Another thing that we emphasize and we want students to engage with as a part of our curriculum is study abroad. So for example, I have a student who is a Cress major who recently, just last quarter, did a study abroad in Turin, Italy, where she was able to again use her Cress background to sort of help her understand race and ethnicity within the Italian context. We also allow for and encourage students to engage in innovative capstone projects. I currently have 2 students who are going to complete their capstone next quarter about really interesting projects. And finally, we offer opportunities for students to collaborate with faculty on empirical research. As one example of that, I have a couple of students that I worked with last year. In April of last year, students and I presented an empirical paper at the Southern Sociological Society conference in New Orleans. And before this, what we had to do is we had to, get a data set, do the data analysis of the data set, write up a presentation, write up a paper, and then the students applied for funding that's available at DU to attend academic conferences. We went to the academic conference and had rave reviews, and these are the kinds of opportunities that we're hoping to impart upon students who decide to major in Cress. As far as our curriculum is concerned, we have a variety of elective courses that hopefully some students might find interesting, such as Racial Politics of the Art World, a course that I teach called Race, Crime, and Documentaries. We have Music of the Civil Rights Era, The Politics of Migration, Drumming Across the Americas, Elections and Voting Behavior, Race and Technology and Art, and then another course that I'm going to teach called Ethno-Racial Inequity at Work. And so we, as interdisciplinary scholars, teach these different courses that sort of fit within our respective areas, but also overlap with CRESS. And so what you'll find with these elective courses is that there'll be CRESS courses, but they'll be what's called cross-listed. So they'll also have a cross-listing in art, for example, if it's an art course, or in sociology, if it's a sociology course, political science, if it's a political science course. So these are courses that we teach and also areas of research that we're interested in. So I argue that one of the benefits of joining as a CRESS major is that you have exposure to a variety of different professionals in these different realms. Whereas if you were to major in another field, you would most likely only have exposure to PhDs within that one area. So this is one of the benefits of CRESS, right? That we're interdisciplinary and that we have a wide range of topics that we apply a CRESS lens to. Our students conduct research on a wide variety of things. So for example, these are just some examples of recent student majors and the research interests that they have. So one is doing an analysis of race and how it plays out in library and information science curricula. So basically what she's looking at is curricula from both DU and then other institutions, and then understanding the ways in which they either include or exclude race and sort of documents about race. Another student I had last quarter do her capstone on the racialized experiences of Denver's unhoused populations. And so what she did is we gathered some data from some nonprofits who do work with the unhoused in Denver. And then we did a systematic analysis, and she did it through a class, but a systematic analysis of the racialized experiences of people in Denver, in the unhoused in Denver. Another student is really interested in indigeneity and representations in popular TV series, and that's another opportunity that we give students, right, is to do sort of analyses of popular media. And then finally, another student is actually currently doing an honors thesis where we have a data set of victims of murder and what their family members have to say about those victims of murder. And so what she's going to try to do is to provide a counter narrative to the narratives that exist from the media or from policing agencies, to give those victims, who are largely Black and brown men, largely voices, right, that they wouldn't necessarily have if we were to just look toward the media and toward policing agencies. So some career possibilities, because I know that this is something that students and parents are oftentimes interested in. I will say that because CRESS is relatively new, again, it only started in the fall of 2023. We have not had any students graduate as of yet because they have not made it that far yet. But there are career possibilities that we've thought of that make sense with the way that we've designed the curriculum. So community organizer, historian, working for nonprofits or being a nonprofit manager, urban planning, social work, being a journalist, engaging with various public policy organizations like RAND or Brookings or Aspen, being a lobbyist, being an educator, of course, various graduate programs. We can see a direct link between CRESS and sort of what we're talking about and law school. And in fact, critical race theory was founded in the American sort of legal school, school of thought. And so ultimately, there's a direct link there. But also, students might decide to go on for graduate programs in sociology or in history or something that is their double major. And CRESS would certainly benefit them in both getting into those graduate programs and then also excelling in those graduate programs. Here's an overview of our major. So there are 10 courses that students have to take for the major. but students often opt to take more courses. We aim to be as flexible as possible with the major, and so students have lots of flexibility in exploring within those 10 courses. And so what we have is we have 6 courses serve as elective courses. And what students will do is they choose from a large bank of courses that are cross-listed with CRESS. And so you'll have a course potentially between history that's cross-listed with CRESS, or political science or psychology that's cross-listed with CRESS. And so there's a large bank of classes that are offered every quarter that students can choose to decide which ones are going to be their electives that count toward their 10 courses for the major. We also have 4 required courses. So we have an introduction course. So we have, it's called Introduction to Critical Race and Ethnic Studies. And I'm currently teaching that course right now, and students are learning about critical race theory and learning about, resistance to critical race theory and sort of the importance of critical race theory and other theories as well. And then also contemporary events, right? A lot of contemporary events related to race and ethnicity. We're talking about it in that class, and I'm free, feel free to ask me questions. And I'll, hopefully be able to answer your questions about that course. We also have 3 other mandatory courses. So one is a course in theory. So it's critical race and ethnic studies theories. And so basically, when we think about critical race and ethnic studies, we oftentimes think about critical race theory. That's one of the theories that will be covered in that course. There are other courses. There's other theories. So there's a theory called racial formation theory that would be covered. There's a theory called racialized organizations theory that would be covered. So there's a variety of different theories that would be covered in that course. And then we have a quantitative methods class. And I taught this class 2 quarters ago. And there, what we did is we worked with data sets, and all of the students had their own individual questions about race. And they used these data sets to make sense of their questions, and wrote fascinating papers, some of which I decided to post on the web page. And at the very end of this presentation, there will be a QR code that leads you to be able to see some of that student work. In addition to the quantitative methods course, we also have a research-based capstone. So one of the things that we try to do with students is give them a research-intensive experience, because we realize that with these skills, it opens doors. And so students should be able to get into graduate programs, should be able to go directly into jobs, right? Especially if those jobs require these research based skills or these quantitative skills. And so our research capstones, again, we are relatively new as a major, but nonetheless, we've had 1 student complete her research capstone. We have 2 more students who are going to complete their capstone next quarter. And they're kind of working through their ideas about what they want to do. The 1 student who completed her capstone did her capstone on Denver's Unhoused, and wrote a fascinating research paper that was both quantitative and qualitative. So she had a data set, but then she also had interviews that were conducted as well. So we are flexible with the way that research capstone looks, but we hope that students will produce a product that then allows them to, again, open doors for the next step. Here are some quotes, some select quotes about the CRESS major. So one student in after the quantitative methods class said, "I feel much more confident in my abilities to navigate the research aspects of CRESS. I think the most important part of this course was the research paper process. I learned a lot about aspects of the process that I hadn't seen in other courses similar to this, and I'm excited to continue to take courses like this." The second student talked about how, they have another major, but they feel that the CRESS curriculum has enhanced and even revolutionized their perspective on personal, academic, and professional pursuits. And so even though we're just starting out, we see that a lot of students are gaining a lot from what we have to offer in the CREST curriculum. And I realized that we have only 8 minutes left, but this is my final slide, which basically has some QR codes, which will direct you to the web page. And again, I encourage you to look on the web page to see some of the works that students have produced. And this sends you directly to that page. You can also see our bulletin, so you can see some of the news and things that have been going on in the CREST program. And then the second QR code is for the university bulletin, which gives a bit more description about what we're trying to do with this CREST major. And then ultimately, it gives you a breakdown of the different kinds of classes that you can take toward the major for CREST. All right, so I'm going to end slideshow. I'm all done.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Byron, for that presentation. And it looks like we do have our first question here. And
Okay.
if anyone else has questions, please feel free to drop that into the Q&A. The question is, how do you see the program growing in the next few years?
Yeah, in the next few years, I think one of the things I will say, I didn't mention the metrics to you, right? Sort of what we have going on. We have about a handful of majors, right? And then we have about 50 minors as well, right? So students have a tendency to want to minor, even though we're encouraging students to major, right? You get more out of the major. I see the CREST program being stable at first, right? One of the things that we recently did is we recently hired all of these faculty. So I was the first faculty member. Then we hired 2 more faculty members last year. This is their first year. And then we hired our 4th faculty member who's going to start in September. And so because of that, I think there's going to be a stability in the number of faculty. But my hope is that there is going to be a growth in the number of students, especially the students who decide to major. And so we have a variety of things planned. We have an event that's actually coming up later in this quarter where we're going to invite the current minors and majors to an event where we have food and we're going to ask them questions about sort of what they want to see in the program. And so because we're at the sort of very beginning, we're really interested in students helping us to develop the CREST program and, basically give us direction in where students want to see the program going.
All right, thank you for sharing that. Feel free to drop your questions into that Q&A. I do have a couple of questions for you, Dr. Byron. What is your
Sure.
favorite course to teach to new students who have an interest in CREST?
Yeah, I mean, I would say right now I'm teaching the Intro to Critical Race and Ethnic Studies, which I really enjoy. I think I enjoy it because I get a lot of students who come from outside of CREST, or even sometimes outside of our college, right? Our College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And they're curious about it, but they've heard a lot of things in the media that are potentially negative, or from other sources that are potentially negative. And I really like that course because it kind of opens up their minds to let them know that it's not as scary as people have painted it out to be. It is valuable. It is something that we certainly need to talk about, right, in order to be able to progress as a society. And so I like that course for that reason, because it allows students to grow in their interpretation of what critical race and ethnic studies is. I also teach another course called Race, Crime, and Documentaries, where we essentially watch documentaries on urban crime throughout the quarter, and then we apply a critical race lens to those documentaries, right? So we critique the representations of race or lack thereof. We critique who produces it and what audiences they're trying to produce it for. And so students really find that fascinating because they get to watch documentaries for a full quarter. And then they also get to learn about ways of critiquing it through a critical race lens.
Yes, I would like to take that class. That sounds very interesting. We
Yeah.
do have another question in the chat, and it says, "What is another class that you would like to develop and teach?"
Yeah, so I would say I'm a sociologist, and so I study mostly the workplace, but I also, as you will notice, I study crime, I study criminology to some extent as well. One of the courses that I mentioned on that list of elective courses, ethno-racial inequity at work, that's a course that I'm really interested in teaching. I'm a sociologist of work, and so I study workplaces and sort of issues therein. I'm actually writing a book right now on a data set that I've collected over many years, and so I'm trying to get that published. But I'm really interested in teaching this class because I think that's students' next step for the most part, right? They're going to leave college, and many of them are going to go directly into work. And so I think it's really important for students to understand the ways in which organizations, workplace organizations, are racialized, the ways in which they might encounter certain experiences, and then also how to deal with those experiences, right? So that's going to be kind of the center of that class. And I'm really interested in teaching that because, again, I think it'll set students up for success when they take that next step. For most of them, it will be work.
Thank you for that. Well, we are down to our last minute. So I do want to thank you, Dr. Byron, for your time and for presenting with us. And for our audience, we will have a recording of this presentation. So we will send you an email later on about ways to access recordings. And we'd also invite you and love for you to come to visit us in person. So you can meet our excellent faculty members, such as Dr. Byron, meet our students, such as some of the great students Dr. Byron featured in some of those slideshow presentations, to see how they have opportunities to access their professors here at DU and to make those connections. So we do certainly want to thank you for your time to visit with us virtually, and we certainly invite you to come to see us in person in the near future. So to all, have a great evening, have a great night, and thank you for visiting DU. And Dr. Byron, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the excellent questions.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.